Hey guys, it's Mr. Mini Painter here, and today we are painting Red Guardian. Not a very difficult paint, quite quick, but nice to do, nice to show. So there we go. I am going to use some contrast paints as we go along, and for that I primed the model in a light gray color, as the contrast paints, especially the red, turns out very nice. And to reach a nice shadowy effect, I used a zenithal spray. So I spray painted the model in black first, and afterwards I used the zenithal spray with light gray from the top down. So the top area is very bright, and you create some nice shadow effects on the bottom of the model, the lower parts where the light would normally not hit. Now for the first layer, and basically the main color of this entire model, I used Blood Angels Red, which is a contrast paint and creates some nice dark red shadows in the recessed areas and a bright red on top, which is what we want for this Red Guardian. When using contrast paints, make sure to finish a section, because it tends to dry very quick and you can get some differences in colors. So when you start with the legs, finish the legs. And that goes for the rest of the model as well, of course. Now there is a lot of white in this model, and it's not that big of a deal if you hit the white parts that you're not supposed to hit. Just repaint that with some gray cere or any other kind of white. The inner part of the shield I painted with the same red as the body. And for the shield itself, I used Black Legion in a thinned down version. This is, I think, the most difficult part of this model, because I wanted to have the shield a kind of a shiny effect, a metal look. And what I did here is I used Black Legion. I thinned it down at least 2, maybe 3 to 1, and I focused on the inner part of the shield. As you can see here, I'm not really in the focus, I'm sorry. This is a better look. You see that the inner part is a bit more darker than the outer part. And I did this in several steps, 2, maybe 3 layers. The eyes, I used White Scar. I really wanted them to pop out. He's wearing a mask, so I didn't add a pupil. Now for all the remaining white parts, the belt, the boots, the gloves, I used Apothecary White, which is also a contrast paint and creates a nice, very light gray shadow effect. So you get some instant highlights on the raised parts of the whites, and a nice shadowy effect on the rest. Now if you feel like highlighting the edged areas of these white parts, you can use some gray cere or maybe White Scar to highlight those raised edges. I didn't do it myself, I just stuck with the base coat and the layer of Apothecary White. Now to accentuate the border lines between the whites and the red, I used some Nuln Oil. A very thinned down version. Make sure that you don't touch any of the other red or white parts, but you can make the red and white stand out just a little bit more. Creates a nice lined, outlined effect. A bit of a cartoony effect. I also used it in the recessed areas and the star on his chest and back. And make sure that if you hit part of the body, that you clean it up immediately. I did here as well. Just wipe it away. The face, I gave a base coat of Bugman's Glow, and I thinned it down a little bit as it tends to be a very thick paint. It's just the face and the ears that are showing. Afterwards, I created a first layer on the bottom while I let the face dry of Basilicanum Grey. To see how I finished the base of this model, you can check out one of my other videos of Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I'll show you how to at least how I did it. I mean, you can choose any color you want, of course. The Basilicanum Grey I find a great base coat because it creates instant shading in the recessed areas and a nice gray concrete look on the top. Now, to continue on our face, I used Cadian Flesh Tone as a first highlight to create some brighter areas on the cheeks, the nose, the lips, the chin. Make sure to leave that darker Bugman's Glow showing on some parts. Create some nice lines in those cheeks. And after that, I used an extreme highlight of Chisel of Flesh on the tip of the nose, the lips, the top of the ears, to make them stand out just a little bit more. This is how we are so far. Well, I used a dry brush with some gray cere to create extra highlights on the shield. I wanted the outside of the shield to be brighter, especially on the top. So I touched some gray cere here and there to create some extra light effects. I also touched the red. I did it on purpose just to brighten it up a little bit. Afterwards, I used the same gray cere to create some lines on the shield, to create an effect of light, or maybe damage if you want. Very thin lines, so make sure to use a fine detail brush. I also touched the sides of the shield. For that, make sure you use the side of your brush. It's the easiest way. Now, to touch up that bright red, I used Towelite Ochre to create some light effects on the red part of the shield. Just the top edges. And that creates a nice little detail in your red tones. For the body, I'm going to use another color. For the body, I'm going to use more of a pinkish effect, which I created with some Bugman's Glow mixed with Palette Witch Flesh. And that creates kind of a soft tissue look, which I found complemented the red very, very nice. If you want, you can use the previous red color, the Blood Angels Red, and thin that, mix that with some Palette Witch Flesh or another bright color to create the same effect. Just experiment a little bit if you want. For me, this worked great. I accentuated all the body parts and made them stand out quite nice. And finally, I used Reichland Flesh Shade in a very thinned down version to create a nice, to blend in the colors of the face actually. I did it on the ears as well. And that's it for the Red Guardian. As I said before, Not a difficult paint, but it looks amazing when finished. And even though it's just 2 colors on his body, I really like the effect on this one. Thank you so much for watching again, and I hope to see you in one of my next videos.